It's another bombshell ruling from the Supreme Court in a decision that could have broad implications for the environment. The ruling states the Environmental Protection Agency does not have the authority to cap emissions from power plants, moving the nation away from coal. The ruling, a major blow to the Biden administration's battle against climate change.
This just puts pressure on the Biden administration ultimately to start moving, looking at not only the Clean Air Act, but other authorities like the Defense Production Act, where it can increase renewable energy use and change the way it is we power our country.
And the president called it a devastating decision. Justice Elena Kagan wrote a dissent saying the court has stripped the EPA of its power to respond to the most pressing environmental challenge of our time. Meanwhile, West Virginia's attorney general called the ruling a huge victory against federal overreach and a huge win for the state. And today's decision will almost certainly have an impact on Wisconsin. A local environmental group was party to the case that was decided today. Our political reporter Will Keneally spoke with the group and tells us what they fear it could mean for the next decade and well beyond. Will?
So as today's decision limits how agencies can regulate polluters, some see the decision as just one in a recent line of similar ideologic cases handed down by the High Court.
It doesn't really surprise us given some recent conservative judicial activism we've seen from the court.
Attorney for Clean Wisconsin Brett Cordy says solutions may now rest with Congress or state legislatures, but that may also pose some issues.
The Supreme Court is basically saying, unless Congress is so explicit that we can't figure out a way to finagle out of it, we're not going to let them regulate these things.
The court struck down the ability for the Environmental Protection Agency to regulate certain air pollutants, which Cordy says should be under the purview of federal law.
There are mechanisms within the Clean Air Act that require the EPA to look for new harmful pollutants. We didn't know what we know about greenhouse gases in the 70s when the act was passed.
So now what? He says regulators can explore limiting emissions under a within-the-fence-line doctrine. That can include trapping CO2 emissions through carbon sequestration.
There's ways to regulate not just CO2, but all the harmful pollutants that come out of gas and coal plants. So by changing the regulations around those, you could also reduce overall emissions.
And this is all hoping to be done on a deadline.
Governor Evers has a target to go net zero by 2050. We're going to keep doing everything we can. We certainly can't give up. We know that a vast majority of Americans want to see strong climate action. Today's Supreme Court ruling was just another indication that our democracy isn't working that well right now.
And local officials like Dane County Executive Joe Parisi decried the decision as undermining what the public wants. You can see more of our reporting online at channel3000.com.